So hello you wonderful citizen of the internet, and welcome to a video for anyone who is really struggling at the moment with failing health, speaking kind of like either mental or physical health, but mostly leaning towards failing physical health. Because I got thinking about this video when I got a comment on Instagram the other day from someone who's, I think, recently come down with fibromyalgia. And it got me thinking about the fact that it is a whole journey. Because I mean, my health went down the toilet in 2013, October 2013. So it's like 10 and a half years now. I'll leave the story of all of mine down below if you're any kind of interested. Because it was basically just a crap show accident of a product that people use to this day, and for some reason, be it genetics, be it the damage I'd already done to my body, but and it is a whole process of, you know, all the stages of grief I think you go through, all the possibilities you had, all the things that you're not going to be able to do. There's the bargaining stage, there's the this won't last, this is just some weird thing and it's going to go away, it's going to fade away. And like I hope for your sake it does. I hope you're right and it does, or that it is something temporary. In my case though, you know, time went by and the more I googled and the more things happened, and I began to realize that this is really it. But it is really, really startling and shocking what the human mind can get used to. I think that the fact that our memories as humans are imperfect and will fade, the details of how normal it was to have a normal life, they start to erode, and your normal becomes what normal is to you now. So I think one tip I really wish I had kind of figured out like a long time ago, because it's only really been in the past 2 years that this has come into my life, and it wasn't even my doing, it was someone else's doing, but it has helped so much. And that is finding friends who are in a similar boat. Like, it doesn't have to be exactly the same condition that they're going through, and honestly I think it helps if they're further on down the road, like if they've been sick, disabled, whatever, for longer than you have, so they've kind of gotten used to it, they've got more coping skills, all of that. But having friends who are also sick or disabled, I think is incredibly helpful. I'm so sorry to kind of thrust this on you if this hasn't happened to you yet, and I hope it won't happen to you, but oftentimes it's an inevitability. Your friendships with healthy people will struggle, will suffer, will often fall away, because friendships with healthy people often involve going out and doing things and having events and all of this. And in my case, my reliability factor honestly fell to about 20% at one point. It was like, you know, it still pisses me off to this day. Friend, their wedding, they actually had like a little mini festival for their wedding, and I was so psyched. You know, I got my tent out, I was practicing with my tent, putting it up and putting it down, all of this, and I was so excited. And then of all fucking things, I tried out a new water bottle that had a charcoal filter in it. And I reacted to the bloody charcoal filter, and I was ill, and I literally missed their fucking wedding and their festival. And I mean, this was literally about 8 years ago, and I'm still fuming. You know, so friendships with healthy people, they do struggle and they do fall away, because healthy people don't really understand, particularly when you've cancelled on them for about the 5th or the 6th or the 7th or the 8th time. They don't understand, understandably. But people who've been through this shit or are going through this shit, they get it. They get why you have to cancel. And I love the fact that being friends with people in a similar boat, they tend to be kind of encouraging, and we tend to find kind of compromise points. So like, if someone is too ill to do whatever we were planning, we will kind of reroute and be like, well, look, could you do this? Or like, if someone gives you a lift over there, could you do this? And oftentimes we can find wiggle room, or you know. And also the other thing is that we are completely comfortable looking like shit around each other. Like, you know, if I want to roll around there in no makeup, in my pajamas, I will do that. And you know, that is pretty new for me. I've always had this thing where I feel like I have to, and I think this is pretty typical for autistics and ADHD people, you feel like you have to kind of be on, you know, when you're around people. You have to be masking, you have to be performing, you have to be upbeat and energetic. But with these friends, I don't feel that way. I don't feel I have to be performing. I don't, you know, and that is really new and really lovely. If you're feeling ill in any kind of way, you can't do it with a friend who you feel you have to be matching their energy, their healthy person energy. It's awful and difficult, and you can't do it until you cancel on them again and again and again, because you're afraid of ruining the friendship because you're not going to be entertaining enough because you're sick. But then you ruin the friendship anyway because you cancel on them time and time again. There's just no fucking winning. But you know, with people who are sick or disabled, they get it. But one thing I wanted to say that regards kind of hope, which I think is a vital thing, particularly at the beginning stages of all this shit, when you do feel like you have kind of recessed to being like a ghost of the internet. That's how I felt. I felt like, you know, I used to be a real person that went out and did things in person and existed in the world, and suddenly I got sick and I became this ghost of the internet. That I just existed online, and I just existed to like other people's Facebook posts and comment on them and watch other people play. And you know, and people were asking like, oh, you know, will you ever do a meet and greet? It's like, well, not really, because I'm so fucking unreliable because I'm always ill. So no, I exist in here. I exist in here. I'm just a fucking holograph these days. That was a depressing feeling. So I think hope is an important thing. And the weird thing I realised when I got this Instagram comment, I realised that of all the things in my life today, 11 years after getting sick, all the things I like in my life today pretty much are also a result of getting sick. I mean, YouTube, for instance, I don't think I ever would have got into YouTube without the the painful, awful level of boredom, loneliness, isolation, and need to be distracted that you have, and just no one to talk to, all of that shit that you have when you're newly chronically ill. Because it was about 8 months, I think, after I got sick that I made my first video on this channel, because I'd gotten sick and I was lonely and I was bored and I had no social life anymore and I had no life anymore, and YouTube provided, and I think it does this for a lot of people, it provided a more friendly, personable form of entertainment than something like Netflix. Because Netflix, you've just got all the fucking healthy people living their fucking lives, and their, you know, super dramatic, lovely lives, because it's all fiction, you know. Whereas YouTube, you've got everyone. You've got fucking everyone. And you've got a lot of dysfunctional people on YouTube. Like, let's be real. I think you've got to be a bit nuts to do this job, or you've got to be in a weird position to do this job. And so and it's someone talking to you. It's someone talking to you in their bedroom, and it's lower octane, and it's I don't know. It's to me anyway was more comforting when I first got sick. Me being me, I eventually was like, I've got things to say. I've got things to add to this debate. So I uploaded a video, and I never expected anyone to really fucking watch it or anything. But I realised I really enjoyed doing it. I haven't had a conversation with anyone, you know, like a real conversation about anything that matters with anyone in so long. This is amazing. And that was really me in it. After that, you know, and I was really struggling for like what the fuck I was going to do with my life before I got sick. The other thing though is my writing. You know, I've just put out my third book, largely about battles with doctors and medication and all of that stuff, largely more on the mental health side. But I thought, when I get a real job, like, am I going to have the time? And well, you know, if you're chronically ill, you have a lot of time and you have a lot of need for escapism also. So writing, you know, I could throw myself into it. It's a bit of a be careful what you wish for scenario, isn't it? The things that I was most stressed about in my life before I got sick have been solved. I mean, it's taken a lot of years of misery and shit, but they've been solved by getting sick. And one other thing regarding kind of hope and these things that are so vital, I do want to talk a little bit about improvements in your health and hoping, praying, wishing, planning for improvements, because I think particularly at the beginning, and particularly if you're in America, because I mean, I watched that genuinely awful. I really feel like there was ill intent behind filming this show, but that Afflicted documentary that was on Netflix a few years ago, about the chronically ill people in America, that blew my mind, because it's such a different experience in the UK because of the fact that our health system is very different. There would be no show. You could not make a show in the UK about chronically ill people, because it'd be the most boring thing ever. We just sit at home, we're just ill, and that's it. Whereas in the US, because healthcare is paid for, there are so many quacks out there who, like, you know, oftentimes they are qualified fucking doctors and they know what they're doing is quackery and has no benefit whatsoever, but they also know they've got the right words, they've got the qualifications, it's easier than real doctoring. They can throw together this bag of shit, throw this snake oil hope at people, and people will shell out £10,000 for it, $10,000 for it. And so these people who were chronically ill, constantly they were being dragged by their throats on a leash of hope that, you know, this health retreat, this crazy thing, this that and the other, it was gonna miraculously fix them. Shooting up vitamins, it was gonna fix them. So, you know, if you're in America, just watch out for the quackery. Because a lot of it is quackery. Do your research on anything that gives you hope, because it was so devastating to see some of these people who, you know, they'd shelled out $30,000 that as a disabled person they did not have, and then they'd gone on this awful, you know, if you've got chronic pain issues and energy issues and all the rest, awful massive drive across the states to get to these things. They'd really genuinely believe they were going to get their lives back after this retreat, and then it had done nothing for them, and just the devastation on their faces was just horrible to witness. So, you know, I would say in the beginning stages, of course you want to believe there is some miracle out there that is going to give you your fucking life back. You would throw your money at it, your relatives would throw money at it, because even here in the UK, you know, my mum would occasionally come at me with something she'd seen online that I'd Google, no scientific backing for it whatsoever, but she was willing to absolutely bankrupt herself over trying to fix me. And I would have to be like, look, I'm sorry, it's A, this thing is not scientifically backed, B, fucking lovely of you for trying and for thinking that way, but I know that my health issues are not fixable like that, and most long-term health issues, you can't just do this thing and that's better like that, you know. It's so when it comes to improving, and when it comes to this hope for a different, better future, I think if you need it, for God's sake, hang on to it like a life raft and keep hoping that it's going to get better. And, you know, and if you've got the cash and all of that to try these things, then, you know, why not? But do your research, do kind of deep dive on the practice that you're going for. Also, the person giving it to you, do they have any kind of criminal records in any states for quackery and for, you know, medical negligence and all the rest of it? Do your research. But the main thing I wanted to say is that, yes, hope for the best, but don't put your life and your mentality on hold for this magical, miraculous day when you're going to get your life back and it's all going to be different, because there's nothing to be gained from those months where you put everything on hold and you're like, well, I'll do this when I'm better, and I'll do this when I'm better, and I'll think about this when I'm better, and blah, 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 and you just flumping around watching Netflix waiting for things to get better. However, I will say that kind of crazy things have happened for me in the past year. I mean, I'll say kind of crazy. It's baby steps, but the odd little thing has improved for me. You know, when I say little, I mean things like I can drink tea again for the first time in a decade. And to most people that really isn't much, but to me that is everything, you know. But like say, that is only in the past maybe even 6 months. So it was literally a decade of honestly things just getting worse and worse and worse before there was any kind of strange uptick. You can't put your whole life on hold for that, you know. The other thing, though, I would say, if you have gone on disability at this point, or you're trying to get on disability and you're not working and you've got all this time and you're just kind of going insane, if you can, if your health issues allow, try to find something that makes you feel some kind of productive, because I do feel like we have to feel like we're not necessarily like contributing to society in a big way, but we have to feel like for ourselves we have achieved something today. So even even if that's something like, oh, I took a shower and I did a bit of tidying and I can see the difference, that that can be something that feels productive to you. So things for me that have absolutely kept me sane, again, the writing, the YouTube, but also, as I call them, yarn sports. So knitting, crochet, knurl binding, I do all of those, and I love knitting and crochet, particularly because even if I'm really ill, I can usually pick up a knitting needle or a crochet hook and do something and feel a bit productive and feel a bit engaged, and it's very soothing and it's very repetitive. And yeah, so I recommend yarn sports or painting, if that's your thing, if you've got any leaning in that direction. Writing, as I say, even like journaling and things can be good. I did, however, have one summer where I got really into computer programming, and I fucking loved the shit out of it. Felt like it was kind of stretching my neurons in a new direction. I loved that shit, and it helped me sleep too, because whenever I wanted to go to bed, I would set like a kind of coding challenge for myself. I'd go to bed and I'd be thinking in my mind, okay, how does the code go for this? It was great, if I hadn't have been doing YouTube, if I hadn't have had other constraints on my time, I probably would have gone in a computer programming direction and just kept going with that and learning more languages, and maybe I've like a web designer or something by now, I don't know. But yeah, whatever it is, like learning something, if you can, learning a language, computer programming, studying philosophy, studying literature, open university courses, things like that. Anything that you can feel kind of productive, not just kind of rotting, I guess, as people call it these days. Obviously, again, depending on the nature of your chronic illness, there are going to be times, and honestly, I say anyone with a chronic illness, there are going to be times when rotting is all you can do and is actually what you need to do. And in that case, there are apps these days. There are actually apps. I will try and look them up. I will leave them in the drop down. But there are apps these days that are like the anti-Fitbit. They're like Fitbits for chronically ill people, and they tell you to limit your movement. And I think they probably like remind you of things like taking your meds, maybe hydrating, things like that. So that is probably another good thing. Regarding the hobbies and the feeling productive, there is the possibility that these things can become a bit of a side hustle, and financially, you might not be in quite so much of a rut as you may well be, currently or in the future if you're on disability or you're trying to get on disability, because we all know that can be so much fun. Again, is this millennial hustle culture? I don't know, but yeah, if you have something that makes you feel productive, and if it brings in a bit of money, even if that's just like a little bit of emergency money every now and then, when you have something that you're willing to part with, that can be helpful for sure. And I think the final thing that is really on my list regards expressing the pain that you are in, be that physical, be that mental, be that both, or just the sense of hopelessness, the sense of frustration, the sense of why me, why not them, why do they get to live exactly the life I want and I do not anymore, and all of these things. Do find some way to express them, whether that is ranting in therapy, or whether that is creating some form of art, even if it's for your eyes only, just something that kind of gets it out and that helps you. I don't know, I mean, in my case, words are largely my thing, so finding ways to put it into words, so writing stories, as I say, like my last book is in many ways a string of arguments between bits of my psyche arguing with each other, or things friends have said, things that doctors have said. It helped me put into words a lot of the things that I was feeling. And I literally in doctor's appointments, in therapist appointments, I have literally found myself quoting chunks of that book, just certain phrases, sentences that came out when I was writing that. I was like, that is what I'm trying to say. And it helped me advocate for myself by helping me get the words out right. If you need to write out vast screes of fury about what's going on with you, and then it gives you the sentences, gives you the words, the phrases that you need to tell your spouse, your friend, your whoever, what is going on with you, that is helpful. But it could be art, it could be music, it could be however you want to express yourself. However, I do just have to jump in here and say, if expressing yourself is not what you need right now, and what you need is to be transported away and to be distracted as much as possible from what's going on, then please, by all means, throw yourself away from the productivity and throw yourself into video games, into books, into movies, into whatever distracts you. And I think learning that it is okay and sometimes necessary to be basically just chewing brain bubblegum for like hours at a time, that is something that you do need to get okay with allowing yourself. And it's something that I've had to get okay with allowing myself, because I think having ADHD and being a millennial with this whole kind of hustle culture that seems to come along with it, for years of my life, I was like really quite anti video games, because I felt like, look, you spend hours of your life on this thing and you emerge with no discernible life skills. Like, what is that for? And I've come to realize, like, sometimes there is just too much time. There's just too much time, and you're not in a state mentally or physically to do anything useful with that time. And everyone needs downtime. Like, it is okay and necessary and good sometimes to just chew brain bubblegum and to get into games and all of this. So little by little, I am rediscovering old games like Pokemon. I rediscovered Pokemon. I got so into that, and that was so lovely until the whole thing ate all my Pokemon because it malfunctioned, and now I'm sulking and I can't get back into it. But I do mean to keep exploring more games and things like that. And I think that is a good thing. It's difficult, when you are in this disability situation where you don't have like an official schedule that anyone else is setting for you, and your time is your own to do with. It's very difficult to keep it balanced and to not lean too much in the direction of like productivity until you break yourself, or doing nothing until you don't feel productive and you start to beat yourself up because you're not doing anything useful. These are the two extremes that I tend to swing between, and trying to find a balance is really fucking difficult. But I recommend trying to find the balance that I still haven't found. If you are on disability, or you're just not able to work anymore, that extra time can feel horrifying. I think particularly if you have been used to doing a 9-to-5 job, and then suddenly you can't do it. There's part of you that's like, well, I fucking hated that job anyway. But also, what the fuck now? Like, what the fuck now? Everyone else in your household maybe is at work or whatever, and you're just alone, and it's awful. If you can find enough things to learn to teach yourself, to express yourself, to whatever, it can become a blessing more than a curse, the extra time. Although, yeah, as I say, within the constraints of your chronic illness, and the days when you are really, really, really sick. In my case, I think the absolute pits, the worst bits, have been times of just like puking my guts up for days. That amount of time just being miserable and ill and staring at Netflix until you're kind of hallucinating from sleep deprivation, that's not fun extra time. That's not extra time you can do anything with, because you're too sick to do anything with it. But I will say, during that time, I was still feeling kind of blessed for living in the era that I live in, because at least there's the internet, at least there is Netflix or whatever whatever you want to be watching. At least we have this world of entertainment. Because I do remember, being sick, like, or off from school in the late 80s, early 90s, when, you know, your mum would have to go up the road, get a DVD out from Blockbuster Video, and it'd be you with your sick bucket and your My Little Pony DVD, or VHS tape actually in those days, and that was all you had. I was in hospital for a week in 2009, and this was before internet on phones. There was no TV in the room. I didn't have a laptop. There wasn't even a radio in the room. Literally all I had, I was too sick to read, so all I had was these, you know, the real trash magazines that have got like headlines like, "I've just had my father's deformed 5-headed baby, I had sex with an octopus, my baby brother has a flea shooting out of his ear hole." You know, these crazy ridiculous magazines. They were the only thing, you know, because you don't have to have any concentration span or anything to read those things. That was all I could do with myself, was just read trash mag after trash mag, just staring at these things. So having experienced that level of being sick, anxious, alone, feeling absolutely awful in a hospital bed with just no entertainment, the fact that you know, whatever is going on with me, I have my computer, friends are a text message away, and all of this stuff like is so miraculous. And obviously, you know, again, if you're younger and you've never had to experience the world before the internet, you're not going to have that contrast. It's going to feel, I think, lonelier for you, because this is just normal. Yeah, so I would say if you are from the younger generation, it might be interesting to now. I mean, this book suggestion. Avoid it if you are someone maybe who is easily triggered by ED related stuff, but one book that I have, this is not about physical health kind of, but about a girl in the 70s who had an ED, and eventually passed away from her ED, and that book, will occasionally go back to it because it does remind me of just how lucky I am in this era to have some level of mental health understanding going on, and, you know, all the entertainment for sick people that we have. And that book is Catherine by Maureen Dunbar. It was written by her mother. It's got snatches of her journal, and yeah, just in the 70s, and just nothing to do. The sheer misunderstanding she went through day after day after day. And you know, you may find that there are books kind of like that, about people who have had other illnesses in past times, and it might be interesting to just kind of compare and contrast. Like, okay, wow, like, you know, I hate to be one of those people who's like, it could be worse, you know, some people have it worse. No, because, you know, bollocks to that, absolute bollocks to that. Like, there is no fucking competition with like, oh, but so I've been through this, and you know, some people are going through this, that, and the other. Because I think that works for some people. For some people, it does genuinely work to see, oh my God, you're going through this. Well, actually, maybe this isn't so bad. You know, and I have had moments like that. I mean, I've got friends who've got kind of similar health issues to mine, but like 1,000 times worse. And the stuff that they have gone through and the time they've spent in hospital and all of this, they are some of the strongest, most amazing people I know. But at the same time, I don't think there is really anything to be gained from trying to jolly yourself up with like, well, it always could be worse, because that doesn't help. That's not really understanding. You know, that's toxic positivity in many ways. You know, whatever you're going through, if it is really crushing the life out of you and crushing the soul out of you, then that is the pits. It doesn't matter if it's not in some people's minds as bad as what someone else is going through on paper. It's, you know, how your mentality is dealing with it and all of that. But yeah, as I say, for me personally, it is helpful to be reminded of the past era that I do remember, that oh my God, this could be even worse, and at least I have this, at least I have this. But yeah, I would put money on it. I don't think you will feel so awful about it forever. Like, normality is a shifting concept, you know. I mean, just look back at the past and at what has been normal and around the world, and at what is normal for different people. Normal is a constantly shifting concept, and it will be for you, and you will find your new normal. If you're constantly butting heads with people who don't believe you because, oh, I haven't even mentioned this, have I? Yes, at the beginning there will be the people who don't believe you. If you've ever had mental health issues, particularly anxiety, people will think it's just anxiety. Even doctors will think it's just anxiety. And I had to deal with a lot of that, because a lot of my symptoms, particularly in the beginning when it was really, 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 really bad, they kind of looked like anxiety. You know, I would go to the doctor, my heartbeat would be going 190 beats per minute, my hands would be shaking like this, and it took so many doctor's appointments where they would be like, you calm down, just relax, breathe, you know, and I would have to sit there conversing completely calmly, slowing my speech, putting on the calmest demeanour I possibly could, and then listening to my heart and realising that it made fuck all difference how calm I was. That, you know, my hands were still vibrating and my heart was still going 190 beats per minute, and you know, little by little, you know, sometimes, yeah, there will be some doctors who it is like talking to a brick wall and you can't win, and get a second opinion, find someone else, get a second opinion, swap practices if you have to. Obviously, if you're in America, that there can be the whole, are you a drug seeker if you do these things, you know, swap practices and things. But you know, one of the meds that I'm on is a benzo, and getting that in the UK was crazy, because over here they don't want to prescribe you anything addictive. Like, they would rather chucked yourself off a fucking bridge because you couldn't cope with it than that they potentially created a bit of an addiction situation, like literally. So yeah, I get it. If you know, if you know there's a med you need, and doctors like, oh, I don't want to prescribe that, this is a bit naughty, or you don't need that, it's just anxiety, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, you're probably going to have to butt your head through quite a lot of that. And, you know, again, return to your family and your friends. This didn't happen to me personally, but I have seen this happen to other people, that they, you know, friends and stuff start being like, do you think they have like Munchausen's or something? Like, why are they always sick? Like, you know, what's going on with them? Like, all they talk about is being sick, and is it Munchausen's? And it's like, oh my God. You know, I mean, I don't know much about Munchausen's, but I'm pretty sure, I think, that it's not something that just pops up like in the middle of your life, is it? Like, isn't it pretty much like a long-term kind of almost inborn condition, I think? And it's so rare. It is a rare thing for someone to genuinely enjoy, you know, being sick, being pitied, missing out on shit, having this kind of life, being broke because they're on disability or trying to get on disability, all the rest of it. It's very, very, very rare for someone to have that shit going on. It is far more likely that they're telling you the truth, that they are actually ill. I should have got onto that earlier, the frustration and the of dealing with people who don't believe you, or, you know, just anxiety, or, you know, if you've got like a rare condition, you know, constantly being funneled down, you know, roads that you've been down before with diagnosis and stuff like this, that, like, you know, it's not that, it's been tested and it's not that. And, you know, oftentimes you've done the research online, you know what it is, and you've still got doctors coming at you with the fucking quote about zebras, you know, oh, if it clops like a horse and it sounds like a horse, it's probably a horse, it's not a zebra. Sometimes it's a fucking zebra, and actually zebras are a lot more common than you would think, in terms of Ehlers-Danlos. I'm mangling that, I know I am, but EDS, you know what I mean. That's the one that people mostly seem to talk about with the whole zebra analogy. I know like a crazy amount of people who have EDS. I mean, I've got some symptoms of it myself, and like so many people have it, so it's not even that rare. The one I mean, this is a bit twisted to call this comforting, but it kind of is a bit comforting. If you are kind of younger and you do feel very alone, because all of your friends are completely fucking healthy and you're the one who everything's gone to shit with, and like, that's going to intensify everything for you, because everyone around you doing fine, and then you get plucked from this sea of healthy, happy teenagers, and you get cursed. So again, I feel wrong calling this comforting, but as you age, you are going to find that this kind of shit happens to a lot of people in your life. And the people you know who are dealing with some kind of chronic illness or other, there's going to be a lot of them. And you're not going to feel so alone anymore. If you don't have a health battle, it'll be something else. Everyone's life at some point is going to go to shit in some awful way. And it's awful to call that comforting. That's fucking awful. But yeah, if you are really struggling with the why me of it all, just know that in time, and I feel like you're probably struggling with the why me of it all because you probably have someone in your life or someones in your life who are kind of grinding your nose in it in some way, you know, whether that's deliberately because they're an asshole or whether it's by accident because their life is just fucking fantastic and you're watching it from a distance on social media and you're just thinking, this is so unfair. Like, yeah, battles are going to be pitched at pretty much everyone in life at some point. So anyway, this is a tangent. I mean, I hope for you that things do get better sooner than, 10 years later. I hope they do. If you're trying to get some kind of disability benefit at the moment, I hope they grant you with it. And if you are doing that as again, a bit of a tangent, but I think this is vital. If you are filling in forms or doing whatever you have to do to get your disability benefit, there are websites out there that do talk you step by step through, like, this is what they need to hear to give you a point. You are not lying, you are just telling them it in the way they need to tell it, because you have to state things very specifically for them to give you a point and for you to qualify. So you can either Google it, if you've got something like a Citizens Advice Bureau, you can go to that. If you've got any kind of health team around you, you go to them for advice. If there's someone there you can lean on and just be like, look, I'm filling this disability form, like, what should I say? Is there anything that I need to bring up? Is there anything I need to mention? Sometimes they will, if you've got like a phone interview or something, sometimes they will even sit with you on the phone, and if you fail to mention like something that needs to be said about your condition, they can sometimes jump in and be like, actually, this person blah 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 blah. That can be quite helpful. This system, it's very, very unequal, because, if you are kind of middle class and educated, and you've got a good support network around you who can tell you all these things and can help you with it, you're probably going to get the disability. But if you're someone who is in real poverty and is really desperate and maybe does not have the level of education that someone has, and you fill it in, you haven't learned this is the way you have to be honest in a specific way, if you just fill it out, they will often, so the people who often need it the most will be the ones who get fucked over. In this country, one of the disability benefits, they'd had this narrative for a long time, oh, so many fucking people pretending to be fucking disabled, taking all your fucking money. They did a study, 0% fraud. Literally, this thing was so hard to get, no one was managing to get it fraudulently. So this whole narrative they'd been putting out, getting people riled up against the disabled, for being fucking money suckers and all the rest of it, 0% fraud. It was baseless. So yeah, you're not cheating, you're not doing anything wrong, but you have to jump through the hoops in the right way, because that's just the shitty system that there is. So yeah, I think with all of that said, I wish you the best of luck with all of this. And yes, just remember, equilibrium is found by your brain. The horribleness fades, it does. And sometimes, as I say, some of the things in your life that are actually the best come out of this awful clusterfuck that has happened to you. It takes a minute, but it does sometimes happen. Anyway, sorry, this is so long now. I'm going to shut up. But anyway, thank you for listening, and good luck. Over and out. Bye-bye.